Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and Iron Man here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Roby, and MScribe. And today, we're going to be talking about ownership coins. We're back, 2026. What do you think, dude?
I think this is a good way to start off things. We're trying to plug back in to the matrix, if you will.
Yeah, we had an invasion of a country and an exfiltration of a ex-president.
That's right.
In just 3 days, dude, of the new year.
It's quite the macro shift.
Yeah.
I think this does something to our nat paper thesis a little bit. And it's like makes the idea of like the United States weaponizing Bitcoin for some sort of a debt offset.
Looks like a viable strategy now, huh?
Well, it looks like less needed is my point, because the United States is now in the business of theft, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's more efficient capital accrual mechanism than buy and hodl, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something like Bitcoin. But in the process of this debatable thievery, guess what else they got? Some Bitcoin.
That's right, yeah.
Or I guess theoretically, and not like a minuscule amount of it. It's
the theory is that Venezuela has accrued about 600,000 Bitcoin, which...
Those are Michael Saylor numbers, dude.
Yeah, but it seems questionable because
I see.
No one has been able to identify on-chain what that might be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't think they could just straight up yock it, right? Or can they?
It depends. If it's held at custody at Coinbase, probably.
Oh, God. Yeah, but I don't think they've actually like completely claimed ownership of the country of Venezuela.
No,
either.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
I think it's more like putting some new,
recommendations. We recommend that you give us all your oil
and Bitcoin.
And your Bitcoin.
And your gold and everything. And in return,
and we will help you stabilize your country.
We'll send you all the pipelines into your country.
Yeah.
So you can flourish. And a little bit of, we'll plant some eagles around. Very, very American of us. So
it's just a recommendation.
But nonetheless, it shifted the macro picture significantly, I think. And the optics around like the stability of the dollar, yada, 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 right? But ultimately, I think this is maybe much more...
So you're actually bullish?
That's kind of what I'm getting at, I guess. I feel like a little bit more optimistic.
Wow.
Which is shocking, right?
Wow, it just took a
Grand theft? Grand theft heist?
A kidnapping of a president.
Like the best like special ops mission of all time. It's pretty damn impressive, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd like to see the documentary for this.
It's coming for sure. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has rallied since. I know, who knows if this is actually going to change the trajectories. Like now, all of a sudden, the 4-year cycle is for sure busted.
Yeah,
we can only go up from here. But
all we need is to reach 126,000, and it's busted.
Okay, well, we're on our way. So in the meantime, assuming it is busted, then we really need to quickly get our grips on this market to understand.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin reclaims its dominance and it's like, bullish sentiment, that means the rest of the market will as well.
Yeah. In October, when everything started to go down, right, that was all-time high Bitcoin, 126, and then it went all the way down to 84,000, something like that.
Yeah.
And so along with Bitcoin, a lot of tokens went down, except for this sector that we're going to be talking about, which is ownership coins.
It's true. Yeah.
So we thought it was interesting. So now looking into it, I thought what was happening with Aave was also extremely interesting. So let's kind of read through this tweet here by Observe. It says, Aave is having a full-blown civil war, and it might be the biggest governance fight DeFi has ever seen. Here's a breakdown. We have Aave Labs and Aave DAO. Labs is a centralized entity founded by Stani, and the DAO is the token holders who govern the protocol. So here's what's happening. On December 4th, Aave Labs announces a partnership with CowSwap to improve swap pricing plus MEV protection on the Aave interface. A few days later, a popular delegate drops on-chain analysis stating that the swap fees from the new CowSwap contract are being routed to a private wallet controlled by Aave Labs, not the DAO. And so the translation is DAO revenue just got quietly cut off. So the next day, Mark Zeller, largest delegate, Aave Chain Initiative, calls it stealth privatization, claims 10 million per year that should go to the DAO is gone. 4 days later, things go nuclear. A proposal called Poison Pill by Tulip King which the demands are seize all Aave IP code and brand, force Aave Labs to become a DAO-owned subsidiary, and then claw back all past revenue earned using the Aave brand.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite the drama.
Yeah.
Then comes proposal number 2, brand seizure by former CTO of Aave Labs. He says, move trademarks, domains, socials to the DAO immediately. The logic, if DAO pays for the dev plus marketing, then DAO should own the brand, domains, and social. And then Aave Labs Stani's defense, he says this cow swap thing was never a fee switch. Front-end revenue was a surplus Labs donated voluntarily. Aave Labs is a private company. DAO owns the contracts, not the website. Labs pays for hosting, security, and front-end engineers. So here's the plot twist. Aave Labs opens a snapshot vote on December 23rd. The proposal, give Aave tokens and Aave DAO holders explicit control over brand assets, domains, socials, and naming rights, GitHub, NPM, everything. Except the author of the proposal, this guy, the CTO, says he never approved it. So he calls this proposal disgraceful, and the proposal was rushed during holidays. But if you zoom out, this isn't about CowSwap. This is about one wallet. This is the unresolved question of DeFi. Who actually owns the protocol, the code, the front end on the brand? Aave is about to set a precedent. Everyone's watching.
Yeah, I guess the reason why this is such a big deal because of who Aave is in the first place, right?
Yeah, pretty successful DeFi app.
I think
Yes, I would say so.
I mean, it's literally number one by like all TVL metrics, I think.
Yeah.
So this is no like fringe case here. Like this is a major, like precedent to be set, right? Where the legitimacy, I guess, of like how DAOs even like what they represent.
Yeah.
What kind of entitlements do they actually deliver to people who have shared ownership of this DAO? That's what's in conflict here, right? And this is per the course of where we've been as an industry over the last, I mean, since the beginning, really. There's no clarity or understanding like where the regulatory rails are.
Yeah, there's no frameworks, there's no structures.
Yeah.
It's just a Wild West.
Still, yeah, even though like stable coins have gotten their due diligence.
Hence, we have neobanks proliferating.
Yeah, pretty soon, like every major bank is going to issue their own stable coins,
Yep.
like, because we understand the process now. But for all these other DeFi and DAOs and other mechanisms native to Web3, like this stuff is still pretty nebulous and up in the air until more clarity comes, right?
Yeah, so MetaDAO chimes in. Ownership is not a meta. It's not a hot narrative or a cyclical trend. Ownership is the bedrock of global finance that turns promises into enforceable value. Demand more from your tokens.
So, smart move. Whenever everybody's kind of like, hey man, I don't like what's happening to these Aave token holders. I hold a lot of crypto tokens. Like, I wonder what's going to happen to us if, X, Y, or Z scenario plays out.
Yeah.
What does that mean for me? So you're starting to see a little bit of like a market appetite, I guess, around the implied ownership aspect, like tied to where's the actual value being held, and like do my tokens actually tie to that? Right?
Yeah, and that's exactly why MetaDAO exists, is because if you're wanting to launch a project that is community owned, you want to use MetaDAO to launch. And they've launched 8 projects since. I think the most successful has been Avichi. They raised $3.5 million. Solomon raised $8 million. And then Ranger is happening right now. It ends in 3 days. But the whole premise of this project is that it has a legal entity tied into these tokens. And as a launcher, you can decide how these tokens are then distributed. And for example, Avichi, which we'll talk about towards the end here, they launched a token and they get 0% of the supply.
Yeah.
And the DAO decides when or if they get paid
through some pretty weird new mechanism called Futarchy.
Futarchy, correct.
Futarchy. I don't know how you really pronounce it.
Yeah. So what is this? We looked it up. It says it's a proposed governance system coined by economist Robin Hanson, where voters choose broad societal values while prediction markets determine which specific policies best achieve those values, embodying the motto, vote on values, but bet on beliefs.
So yeah, MetaDAO implements this by essentially, okay, we're going to launch think of a startup or a project. So let's say it's a metaverse one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And we raised $10 million or whatever. We set like the value for 2026 or like the objective milestone, whatever goal to be, we want more revenue, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty like well agreed upon objective for any startup or whatever. So that's kind of set in stone. But what's like up in the air is like the actual means.
Yeah, could
or
be
process to achieving
subscriptions,
revenue. Yeah, it's like subscriptions,
selling
to our metaverse.
NFTs, selling land.
Yeah, we need to do a land expansion.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just offer new arbitrary land parcels for sale. That'll increase the revenue, right? Or what we need are more music festivals.
Yeah.
To like bring in digital DJs,
Yeah.
you know, drum up some hype and some fun.
Yeah.
That's going to bring the users. And then, yeah, we'll hit them all with like a 99-cent subscription.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So all this is proposals.
These are, yeah. In the same way you propose like predictions in the market, right? Like
Yeah.
on Poly Market or whatever. It's like, yeah, I think Maduro is going to get unalived in prison.
Right.
He's now in prison, right? So it's like, I don't know. He just killed himself. Sorry,
Right.
world.
Yeah.
And that you could make that prediction right now and people can bet on it.
Yeah, but and if $100,000 all of a sudden comes in, you better pay attention
Yeah.
because it's probably going to happen.
His executioner is literally at his cell door
That's right.
as that bet is being placed. It's like the guard.
Yeah.
The guard is the one placing the bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and according to Brian Armstrong and friends, like that's what you want to see happen.
See, but we've outlined a distinctful thing about prediction markets, and it is there's insider trading.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know you're going to unalive Maduro,
Yeah.
you're going to place a bet, therefore exposing an insider trade.
Correct. Which is like the most efficient way to rally like news and reality
Well,
in a very
it's
untrustworthy world, right?
Well, it's the most efficient way to know what the future holds
Yeah, I guess.
because somebody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, so then applied to this where there's like, okay, we have decision markets essentially to dictate direction of things for these autonomous organizations. Like why can or won't that work?
Well,
Like, what's
so
the
here's the
difference there?
thing is that if you're applying prediction markets to something like this, that implies that you know the thing that's going to work, right? So if the proposal is subscriptions or land sale or whatever, and then those are the options, well, I guess I'm going to pick subscriptions. And then the dev team says, well, I guess everyone picked subscriptions, so let me implement it. And then it doesn't work. Then what? I mean, prediction markets didn't really help there, did it?
Well, it arrived to a decision.
Sure, but
at least
you didn't need a prediction market for that. You just need a voting mechanism.
Yeah, but then it's like subjected to like concerns of plutocracy, I guess, like wealthiest.
Yeah, those who hold the most tokens get to decide what happens.
Yeah, and they're like they could have their own like biases, right? We've seen this
Sure.
happen in the traditional DAO model.
Sure, yeah.
We witnessed this in real time. It's like, of course, people want to kind of manipulate the governance decisions of a treasury that's like worth $100 million, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hold some X amount of land. Somebody's proposing we build something on this land.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about the metaverse here.
Right.
Try and figure out what DAO we're talking about. But yeah, these things are very corruptible, right? So
Yeah.
I guess the theory here is because people have like their own skin in the game in this market, there's like less bias, I guess.
So you're saying the distinction here is if you're a token holder, you can propose solutions, but then people with money, external money, people who are not holding the token come
Right.
in and help make a prediction.
or like an assessment, right? Like an actual, it's like some other secondary market of observers who, I don't know, just have a better grasp on the market. Maybe they can actually interject themselves with like a more informed decision actually than the
I can see
actual
that.
DAO members.
I can see that in the case of Aave. There's a lot of people who don't hold Aave tokens, but there's a lot of people who kind of depend on Aave. So they might be like, you know what, this is what you should do. I'm going to put $100,000 on this particular solution, even though I hold no Aave tokens.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the newness here and the wrinkle of like, will this work or will it not? But it's good because it's a new narrative. It's an extension on something that's already super hot, prediction markets.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
at least there's that.
Let's just apply prediction markets to everything, right?
That's right. That's where we are as a market, dude.
Yeah, that's
what we do.
Yeah, that's what happens. All right, so Galaxy's even talking about it. So we call them ownership coins, a DAO governance innovation. We have a full article here. So one of the best ways to have like some comprehension on this stuff is to copy and paste this into Notebook LM. It'll generate like a 5-minute video.
Yep.
And then you could just listen to the AI speak this into your ears.
Very gently.
Very gently.
Yeah. Or very aggressively. It's up to you. However you want that experience.
Yeah. So another good read here is MetaDAO's documentation for entrepreneurs. It goes through the introduction of different types of revenue models. So say, for example, in crypto, we have following the standard path of selling token warrants to VCs. So raise money through VCs, raise venture capital without launching a token. That's another option. Collect creator fees through Pump, Believe, or Heaven. Internet capital markets, we have ICOs on Metaplex and other platforms, or launch on MetaDAO. And so launching on MetaDAO, you're launching an LLC in Marshall Islands, and you are distributing these tokens to DAO holders.
Yep.
And so I recommend this read. Another read for investors, for those of you who are looking into this market and trying to dabble. Here's an example of what we've seen in the past exactly not work. So Parrot, they raised 85 million. The team walked away with 72 million. Rugged it. UXD raised 57 million. Insiders walked away with 46 million. Mango raised 70 million. The founders are suing each other.
Holy crap.
And then Ari raised 108 million. The token is down 99%, and it's unclear where the money has gone.
Yikes.
Yeah. So these are experiments that have failed. And if you're trying to do a legitimate project, like, for example, Avichi is a good one, and you're doing this completely out in the open through a DAO, the only place to do this is through MetaDAO.
So why did these things happen in the ICO framing, and why couldn't they happen?
Well, because there's no connection between the token and, like, the money raised.
Well, yeah, in the ICO world.
Correct.
Yeah, in this case, like, the token holders absolutely have
it's
like full governance autonomy on like how
it's in the
utilized.
operating manual. Whenever you launch an LLC, you have to have an operating manual, some sort of guide of how you're going to govern the company. And so this guide is generated by MetaDAO, and it's already built in.
Yeah. And
the token holders have a say on what the company does. And
so it makes things more transparent, at least.
Yeah, 100%.
You actually see like where the money's being, like where it is, where it exists,
or how you use it, how you utilize the money.
Yeah, like how much of it is being
right
like, at any time being allocated for use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There's definitely some dynamics, I guess, that definitely make things a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
And in a direction I think like traditional like entities typically don't have to deal with when it comes to like, growing their enterprises.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the whole point, I think, is like the Web3 is supposed to represent some sort of like counter to the way things are done traditionally.
Right.
At least I thought so. Like that was kind of the whole premise and the reason why we're tinkering about in this on-chain world.
Yeah, and in the project's past, they've launched governance tokens. They weren't necessarily DAOs, but you would essentially vote as a governance token, but it's to evade the SEC. That's why everyone launched governance tokens.
Right.
And so here's a good example. Famously, $30 million Uniswap has made from its front end is retained solely by Uniswap Labs and will likely never end up in the hands of the token holders. So, I mean, we've said in the past that Uni token is basically useless.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything. And they have another example here with Unibot with $206 million in fees. All right, so let's continue on. So MetaDAO, do they have a token? The answer is yes. Let me zoom out here. Why does it look like that? There we go. And so it started around 20 million. It went as high as 247 million recently.
Very recently.
But here's the thing, is like on October when everything started collapsing, it also collapsed too, but then it recovered and it's been kind of hanging out.
Yeah, so it's literally defying market gravity here, which is a pretty big indication of something, whether it's like fully market maker supported or not.
Yeah.
Who knows at the end of the day, but I think there's enough like evidence is to suggest it's there's some organic nature and like some
something to pay attention to at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got another tweet here by Observe. The Aave Civil War is the best ad MetaDAO never paid for. If you were active on crypto Twitter this week, you saw it everywhere. Aave, MetaDAO, governance drama, power struggles. But the real question is, could this have been avoided? The short answer is yes. The long answer is below. And so, yeah, the thesis is that if you provide a platform, a launchpad, with all these structures in place right off the bat, you avoid things that, these projects are going through, like Aave. All right, so we got another one here. There is an ownership crisis. It's just a few weeks. We saw a lot of free marketing for MetaDAO. So we have Padre Terminal got acquired by Pump Fund. Padre holders got nothing, and the chart got nuked.
Yep.
Vector Fund got acquired by Coinbase. Tensor holders got nothing out of the operation, chart nuked. Axelar Team Interop Labs got acquired by Circle. XL token holders didn't get any benefit out of it, and the token obliterated. Aave is having an existential crisis after Aave Labs made it clear that it has zero intention of giving more ownership to Aave DAO. So we're holding tokens that represent 0 cents of ownership. So this is part of the problem in crypto where, you have these tokens, people are buying them, but ultimately they're vapor tokens.
Yeah, it's been the criticism all along, right? And
yeah,
possibly like
that's why meme tokens have gotten such traction, a lot of traction these past couple of years, because there is no facade, right? It's just a meme.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is possibly something that can bleed into the rest of 2026, potentially with the Clarity Act coming into play, hopefully within the next week or two.
Yeah.
Actually establishing more solid foundations as far as like how do we issue tokens that represent some sort of actual semblance of ownership that give you these like, some confidence in the longevity of these things, right? So we actually form like structured markets around this stuff that produce real value, right?
Yeah, and to think about it, this is Gary Gensler's sort of like what he wanted, but now it's just being done organically, right, as a project, right, MetaDAO.
Yeah. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah, that's what you want. So here are the returns so far on some of these projects. 90%, we got 100% here, 1,300%, 290% for some of these.
Yeah, so they're decent.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, again, considering like the market climate we've been in the last few months, like that's pretty impressive. Is it enough to signal like a full blown market mania? Probably not yet. Once some of these like score 100x's or above, kind of like how, like IDOs and the 2021 cycle did, kind of like kickstarted a whole mania around that, or meme coins themselves. Once they started generating 100x's regularly, it's like, okay, I guess this is how we do things now.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like a wait and see, like if the market completely gravitates to this model or not.
So Avichi at 13x. So what is it? It's a neobank.
Yeah, which we'll probably make another video. I don't know if later this week or some other time next week, doing a little bit more of like a deeper dive on neobanks across the board.
Yeah, I really recommend you guys read Ram's article here. He's the founder of Avichi. Like his thought process on like launching on MetaDAO and like why he's doing it the way he's doing. Team is getting 0% of the tokens. Like it's pretty.
Yeah, they're making big commitments here.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I think, a lot of the market would likes to see more of this, where it's like they're actually locked in for 3 years, and they have these preset milestones that they need to achieve in order to actually receive their allocation, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's all about how do we bring in new mechanisms or new solid footings to have confidence in these projects that we create for the long run.
Yeah,
right?
like a real reason to hold these tokens.
Yeah.
And here's Avicii's chart. It started at around 5 million. It reached 100 million, and then now it's at 34 million.
Yeah, nice little correction. So again, we'll make another video about neobanking because there's a lot of them out there. This one's on Solana, but they're cooking. Like this is a sector of the market that seems to be expanding pretty quickly, and pretty soon, I think is gonna kind of like segue into a little bit more of like a DeFi 2.0 like application stage.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. And then finally, the last article here, Virtuals Protocol, the next era of agent launches, introducing Pegasus, Unicorn, and Titan.
Yeah, so this is kind of separate. It's just Virtuals is also refactoring their launch methodologies as well, right? And I think that's kind of like where we are as a market.
Yeah.
You know, obviously token issuance is a big deal, but nobody's really figured out the perfect formula yet of like how do we actually launch and issue tokens and projects around this stuff and like discover market value around it, but not have it like completely crumble like shortly after. Right. That's where we are.
All right, well, let's call it here. So this has been on-chain the ownership tokens using MetaDAO's platform, which is definitely interesting. If you guys find anything else interesting in the crypto space that you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comment section below. And yeah, happy new year. This is 2026. We're going to be going at it, finding new projects, talking about the NAT token, DMT stuff, of course. Other than that, appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.